I collapsed face first into my dinner plate, 7 months pregnant and choking on air. For a split second, I thought I was dreaming until I heard my brother laughing, not helping, not calling 911, just laughing. My family's faces blurred, twisted in confusion, pity, or worse, indifference. You think this is just about one dinner? No. This is about a lifetime of being loved conditionally, of being polished and paraded like a trophy, only to be discarded when I cracked. And if you're wondering how I ended up here, don't worry. I'm going to tell you everything. You won't believe what they did next. My mother's hand rested lightly on my hair as if I were porcelain, not a woman swollen with a life I fought 2 years of IVF to carry. Her smile was perfect, practiced, and pointed directly at the camera. My own smile, though strained, mirrored hers. That was the rule. No matter what, make it look good for the audience. "Dinner with the Morgans tonight," my father announced into the phone that sat on a mini tripod at the end of the table. Family, love, and legacy. We were framed in golden light. Candles flickered, silver clinked. The china was antique, passed down for 4 generations. The roast was untouched, still steaming, and beside me, Ryan raised his glass, eyes twinkling as he toasted to the future queen. Me. I mean, can you believe she's 7 months in and still glowing like she's ready for Vogue? He said, chuckling. The comments rolled in fast. "Goals, goddess. Wish I had a family like this." I felt the baby shift inside me, a sharp jab beneath my ribs. It was as if even she knew we were acting. The live stream ended. My father stood to turn off the light ring, and the golden warmth instantly collapsed into a colder, harsher white. My mother exhaled like she'd just ended a performance. Ryan stretched and tossed his napkin onto the table. "Don't post that last bit," I muttered to him as I pushed my plate away. He smirked. "Which part? The part where I made you sound likable, or the part where you actually laughed for once?" I leaned in slightly, keeping my voice even. "Don't make me say it again." He blinked, mock innocence painted all over his face. "Say what, Maggie? That you're not built for this world? Or that maybe, just maybe, no one buys the act?" I swallowed. My chest burned with words I couldn't say. Not in front of them. Not again. Later that night, Ryan posted a parody video. My voice chopped into nonsense. Me, blinking slowly, slowed down until I looked drunk. Me, pausing mid-bite, overlaid with dramatic music. He titled it, "Dinner with Diva Morgan." It had 500,000 views by morning. "You're overreacting," my mom said when I called. "Ryan's just being Ryan. People love his sense of humor." "It's not humor," I said. "He's making me look unstable." "Well," she replied carefully, "maybe don't give him material to work with." I stared at the ceiling, phone pressed against my ear, unsure if she'd just called me dramatic or mentally unwell. By the end of the week, the family's PR rep had announced a new brand partnership. Not with me, not with the mom-to-be they'd spotlighted for months, but with Ryan, a luxury men's wellness line. My parents shared the post with enthusiasm. "Such a star," my dad captioned it. "Proud doesn't even begin to describe it." No mention of me, no tag, not even a photo together. I stared at the screen in disbelief. My inbox was full of canceled interviews, retracted collaborations. One by one, they backed away from the emotional pregnant sister story. The irony was cruel. They built me into a brand, and then blamed me for being too real. At dinner that night, I sat across from them in silence. My mother passed me the potatoes. My father commented on the weather. Ryan talked about stock trends and podcast metrics like he hadn't just detonated my digital life. "You know what?" he said suddenly, pointing his fork at me. "Maybe it's time you rebrand. Less Mother Earth, more mildly unhinged muse. You'll trend." I dropped my fork. It clanged loudly against the plate. No one flinched. I looked around the table. Their eyes avoided mine. The same people who told me I was their miracle baby. The same hands that braided my hair, tucked me in, told me I was special. Now they watched me with that distant corporate politeness, like I was just another asset misfiring in the system. In that moment, something inside me cracked, not loudly, not like glass, quieter, like the sound of a page turning in a book you realize you no longer want to finish. And for the first time in months, I asked myself a question I'd avoided. If my family loved me only when I smiled, when I stayed silent, when I posed well, what did that say about their love? And what did that say about me? I told them I wouldn't do it anymore. No more dinners on camera, no more reels, no more fake smiles while my stomach cramped under the pressure of holding up their brand. I told them I was done. "You're overthinking," Ryan said, tossing a slice of lemon into his water. "You always do this. Burn bridges and then act surprised when no one builds them back." "Maybe I'm just tired of pretending," I replied. "You've always been tired of something," he said, turning back to his phone. 2 days later, he went live. His voice cracked with rehearsed emotion as he stared into the lens. "I know a lot of you have asked about my sister. It's complicated. Maggie and I didn't always get along. Actually, growing up, she bullied me. I kept quiet for years. Hundreds of comments flew by, gasping, consoling, validating. He wiped away a tear, or at least the idea of one. I watched in stunned silence, every breath in my chest going stale. That was not our childhood. I was the quiet one, the peacemaker, the one who cleaned up after his messes. But he'd reframed the entire narrative, and the world believed him. By morning, my inbox was flooded again, not with contracts, but with hate mail. Strangers called me manipulative, toxic, unstable. Brands quietly cut ties. One even asked if I could publicly clarify my emotional state. I opened Instagram and blinked. My profile photo was different. The bio no longer read writer, mother-to-be, mental health advocate, but instead, Maggie Morgan, on hiatus. Every post from the last 6 months was gone. In their place, a curated collage of family photos, all of which barely included me. I checked the settings. Admin access had changed. Someone else was managing my account. I confronted my father in the kitchen that evening. He was plating steak, humming, acting like nothing had happened. "Did you change my Instagram?" I asked. He paused, wiped his hands, and met my eyes with calm condescension. "Sweetheart, we needed to streamline the messaging. It was getting erratic." "Erratic?" I nearly laughed. "Whose messaging? Mine or yours?" He didn't flinch. "Your image reflects the family, Maggie. You agreed to that when we started building this brand together." "I never signed anything." He gave a tight smile. "Didn't you?" The air turned thick. I left without finishing dinner. That night, I opened my email, searching for anything, receipts, contracts, even screenshots. I found something worse, an attachment, scanned, dated 6 months ago, a licensing agreement, use of image, story, name, future likeness, my signature in blue ink. Except it wasn't mine. The loops were wrong. My M was too sharp. Whoever forged it knew me, but not well enough. I sat back, pulse hammering in my ears. Someone in my family had signed my identity away. The next day, things escalated. A clip surfaced, the video from the dinner, the one where I blacked out, but not the raw version. This one was edited, overlaid with flashing graphics and a laugh track. The caption read, "Method acting, the new pregnancy glow?" The moment of my collapse was slowed, looped, memed. I watched myself, 7 months pregnant, fall face first into a plate, and heard, clear as day, my brother's laugh layered over it. Except it wasn't there. Not in the real memory. Not in the room. That laugh had been added. Faked. Deep faked. I posted a response. A short clip. Just me, staring into the camera. "This is not funny. This is real. This was a medical emergency. I could have lost my baby." The comments were brutal. "Clout chaser." "She's just mad Ryan's more likable." "Proof she's unstable." I shut it down. Deleted the app. Turned off notifications. Curled into myself like I used to as a child when the house would echo with everyone's voices but mine. It wasn't just isolation anymore. It was invasion. A hijacking of my narrative, my face, my words. The next morning, a package arrived. No return address. Inside, a manila envelope. No note, just a printed contract. The same licensing agreement, only this time annotated in red pen. Circled signatures, highlighted dates, and one sticky note. Check page 4, clause 7. You'll want to read that carefully. My hands shook as I flipped through. There it was. Clause 7. In the event of death, all rights of image, story, and legacy revert to the Morgan family estate. I stared at the line. Death. They were planning for my legacy before I was even finished living it. I scheduled the meeting out of desperation, not hope. A neutral location, a professional setting, a final attempt to salvage something that resembled humanity beneath all the contracts, cameras, and curated smiles. The law office was quiet, polished, impersonal, just the way I needed it. Only Ryan showed up. He walked in wearing a navy suit, chewing gum, and holding a cold brew like he was early for brunch, not a legal meeting with his pregnant sister. Mom and Dad couldn't make it, he said, settling into the leather chair across from me. They sent representation. Behind him, a woman in sharp heels and sharper cheekbones entered. She placed a stack of papers on the table and opened a sleek black folder. "We're here today," she began, "to address your breach of contract." My breath caught. "Excuse me?" "You've violated multiple clauses of the family media agreement," she continued without blinking, "including Clause 3B, consistent participation in digital campaigns, and Clause 5C, refraining from public statements that harm brand perception." I looked at Ryan. "You're joking." He shrugged. "We built something huge, Maggie. You want out? Fine, but not without consequences." I wanted to scream. Instead, I reached for the contract she slid my way. 30 pages, cold, clinical, my name printed like a product on every page. I'd seen the forged signature before. Now it had legal muscle behind it. "We're within our rights," the lawyer said smoothly. "And your continued resistance could lead to financial penalties, loss of shared revenue, and," she glanced at my stomach, "complications regarding your child's media rights." My child. My fists clenched beneath the table. "So you're suing me," I said slowly, "for not pretending anymore." The lawyer didn't answer. Ryan leaned forward, tapping the table. "Don't think of it as punishment. Think of it as accountability." I left the meeting with shaking hands and a copy of the lawsuit in my purse. The story broke that night. Family star Maggie Morgan sued for defamation and breach of contract. "She knew what she signed," says Brother Ryan. "It's sad, but we have to protect the family." The backlash was immediate and rabid. Some called it cruel. Others called me ungrateful. A few influencers even reposted the deep-faked collapse video, adding captions like "legal drama queen." My inbox exploded with noise. I turned off my phone, shut every curtain, stopped answering the door, and then I stopped eating. The silence wasn't peaceful. It was vacuum-sealed terror. I lay on the couch for hours, watching shadows crawl across the ceiling. I didn't bathe. I didn't cry. I just disappeared. 3 days in, the cramps started. A low, dull ache in my back, then sharper, then constant. By the time I realized something was wrong, my legs were too weak to stand. My husband found me, curled up in the hallway, barely conscious. The hospital was all fluorescent light and urgent voices. Nurses rushed. A doctor frowned. Machines beeped. I drifted in and out of awareness, tethered only by the panic in his voice. "Please save them both. Please." The baby survived. So did I. Barely. The doctor told me stress had driven my body to the edge. My blood pressure had spiked. There were risks, neurological, developmental. He said it gently, but I heard the truth behind the words. This wasn't just emotional. This was medical, physical, dangerous. I returned home weaker, smaller, quieter. I didn't speak for 3 days, not even to him. On the 4th day, a letter arrived. No return address, just my name in careful handwriting across a plain white envelope. Inside was a note, typed. "You don't know who your brother is." "Not really." "Ask him about Janie." That was all. No signature, no context. But the name burned into my brain. Janie. I hadn't heard that name in years. Vaguely, I recalled a girl from Ryan's early college days, briefly mentioned, never introduced. My mother said she was a fling that ended badly. I searched the name. Nothing recent. Just a few old Facebook tags, a deactivated profile. Then an article from 2012. Local student Janie Dawson hospitalized after attempted overdose. No photo. Just a line. Sources claim emotional distress stemming from an off-campus relationship. My blood ran cold. I remembered a joke Ryan once made late at night years ago. You've got to break them in before they break you. It hadn't sounded funny then. Now it sounded like a warning. I stared at the letter again. The message wasn't a threat. It was an invitation. Someone wanted me to see the truth, and I wasn't sure which was more terrifying, what they knew or what I was about to find out. I wasn't sure what I expected when I replied to the anonymous message, but it wasn't a coffee shop meeting with 4 women who looked like they hadn't slept in years. They introduced themselves quietly, almost reluctantly. Each had a name I barely recognized from the edges of Ryan's life. Girls from college, a marketing assistant, a family friend's niece. All of them had stories. He said I was too emotional to work in PR, one of them said. He threatened to leak my nudes if I spoke out, said another. He made me believe I was the problem, the third whispered. And the fourth? She just sat in silence, tears pooling in the corners of her eyes. They showed me messages, screenshots, voicemails, edited photos he posted without consent, all of it designed to discredit, to mock, to erase their credibility before they ever dared speak up. I sat there, my hands folded tightly in my lap, stomach tensing with every new layer of cruelty. And then one of them, the woman with the short, jagged haircut and tired eyes, handed me a USB. "Check your old home videos," she said. "Compare them to this." I didn't understand until later that night when I plugged it in. Side by side, 2 videos played on my screen. One from our family archive, Christmas morning, Ryan unwrapping a telescope. Everyone clapping. Me clapping too. The other, the raw footage. Same day, same moment. Except in the raw cut, I wasn't smiling. I was crying. I had just fallen down the stairs, and no one helped. The applause had come 5 minutes later, after Mom handed Ryan the gift and told me to wipe that face before I ruined the photo. I scrubbed through more clips. Birthday parties where I disappeared midway through. Talent shows where Ryan stood under a spotlight I'd built, while my name was barely mentioned. They hadn't documented our family. They'd directed it. A long-running performance crafted and cut to create the perfect prodigy image for Ryan. A brand from the beginning. And I was just scenery, a convenient backdrop. I fell to the floor, pressing my forehead against the hardwood. The tears came slow, then all at once. I had never been real to them, only useful, but as I wept, something else cracked open in me. Not despair, not fear. Fire. I picked myself up. I started filming. Not for them, for me. I set up the camera in my bedroom. Soft light, clean background, no makeup, just my face, my truth. I talked for hours. I told the whole story, from the fake contract to the deepfake video, to the anonymous letter that cracked everything wide open. But I didn't post it, not yet. Instead, I reached out to someone I'd only heard of in whispers, a former reality TV producer who had disappeared after a massive scandal involving a manipulated suicide edit. His name was Cameron Ray. He lived off the grid now, but I found him through one of the women in the group. She'd worked on his set once, said he regretted everything. I sent him my footage. I waited. 2 days later, he called. "This is a fucking gold mine," he said. "Not for entertainment. For truth." He flew out that week. We met in a rented apartment in Brooklyn where I'd set up a makeshift studio. He brought lights, audio gear, and most importantly, integrity. "This won't be a hit piece," he said. "This will be documentation, evidence, a case study in manufactured identity and emotional abuse." We got to work. Hours of interviews, clips, comparisons, screen grabs, deep fake breakdowns, testimonies from the other women, voice analysis of forged calls. legal experts explaining the loopholes families use to exploit members as IP, intellectual property. It wasn't just a story anymore. It was a dossier. We named the series The Mirror Project, and we didn't pitch it to Netflix, or Hulu, or YouTube. We launched it ourselves on an encrypted platform hosted independently. No ads, no brands, just truth. A teaser dropped first, just 30 seconds. A black screen. My voice. I was raised in a house with cameras before I knew how to spell the word privacy. I was taught that being seen meant being loved, that to be real, I had to be edited. But now, I'm done. I'm not a character. I'm not a contract. I'm someone's mother. And I'm taking it all back. The screen cut to a brief shot. Me, heavily pregnant, sitting on a stool, staring straight into the camera. I'm not afraid anymore. This is the truth. We hit publish. The internet exploded. The first episode dropped at midnight. No fanfare. No press release. Just a link, quietly shared among a few trusted groups and accounts. But the internet, it listens. Especially when something rings true. By 6 a.m., it had 2 million views. The footage was raw. Maggie, unfiltered, reciting her childhood not as a memoir, but as testimony. Then the clips, side-by-sides of family videos versus raw footage. Audio overlays showing edits, email threads where her parents negotiated ad rates with her name as the featured talent, a voice memo where Ryan laughed about setting the tone with that deep-fake collapse video, and then the contract, scanned, dissected, exposed. The voice of a handwriting expert confirming this signature is forged. The voice of a digital forensic analyst. This video is manipulated. The voice of a lawyer. This is coercive media branding. It walks a legal tightrope, and the line's about to snap. It went viral not because it was dramatic, but because it was terrifyingly familiar. People began sharing their own stories of being the scapegoat, the quiet child, the lesser sibling in the family narrative. Hashtags exploded. Not just Maggie. Chari, family is not brand. And most of all, Doggy justice for Maggie. By midday, a petition to investigate the Morgan family brand passed 1 million signatures. By nightfall, Ryan's sponsors had all dropped him. His podcast went silent. His Instagram deactivated. News outlets picked it up. Panels debated the ethics of turning family into profit. Psychologists weighed in on generational narcissism. Survivors spoke up, using Maggie's name as a symbol of collective awakening. Then came the twist. An investigative journalist, prompted by the public interest, accessed corporate filings from the Morgan family media entity. Among them, the original notarized version of the contract Maggie was alleged to have signed. Except it didn't exist. No original. No video footage of signing. No legal witness. Only scanned copies. With that revelation, the tide fully turned. Maggie's legal team filed a motion. Defamation, coercion, forgery, emotional abuse. The lawsuit flipped direction. The Morgans were no longer the plaintiffs. They were the defendants. Within days, the family brand's website went dark. The production company lost its business license pending investigation. Maggie's parents were issued a formal summons for fraud and identity manipulation. Ryan tried to post an apology video. He sat in his Tesla, eyes red, voice trembling. I didn't know it would go this far. I never wanted to hurt my sister. I was just trying to protect our brand. The comments section did not forgive him. And Maggie? She stayed quiet, until the stage. It was a TEDx event in Vancouver. No announcement, no lineup. Just a final speaker listed, Emma Morgan, on reclaiming the narrative. She walked onto the red circle slowly, heavily pregnant, wrapped in a plain navy dress, no mic in hand, only a lav clipped to her collar, hands steady on her belly. I used to think family was where you were safest, she began. I thought love was measured by how often they said your name online. I thought if I just smiled more, obeyed more, erased myself enough, I'd finally be seen. A pause. But all I became was content, and silence isn't protection. Silence is permission. She looked up then, gaze sweeping the crowd. And I revoke mine. The talk lasted 12 minutes. It went online 2 hours later. Within 48 hours, it passed 100 million views. Comment sections flooded with stories from daughters, sons, siblings, partners, all echoing the same sentiment. Thank you for saying it out loud. Maggie didn't do interviews. She didn't monetize the video. She didn't drop a book or a brand. She just disappeared. Until one day, a photo surfaced. Her, holding a newborn on a sun-drenched porch, somewhere quiet. No caption, no tag, just peace. Ryan's apology stood pinned to his Twitter profile. His follower count dropped daily. His silence was no longer strategic. It was survival. And then came the final message, an email, no subject, from an address she didn't recognize. The body read, "You don't know me, but I think we share a father. My name is Caroline. He left us when I was 6. I saw your video. I think I finally understand why. Can we talk?" Maggie stared at the screen, hand resting gently on her daughter's back. She didn't smile, but for the first time in her life, she didn't feel alone in the story. The message from Caroline stayed unread for 2 days. I couldn't bring myself to open it, not because I didn't believe her, but because I did. And if she was telling the truth, then everything I thought had ended was only just beginning. On the 3rd night, with my daughter sleeping on my chest, I clicked it open. I read her story once, then again. Then a 3rd time, slowly, letting every line carve into the parts of me that still felt raw. She wasn't bitter. She wasn't demanding. She was quiet, clear. She'd seen my TEDx talk by accident, then recognized our father's voice in a clip. Not literally, but in the tone, the words, the entitlement. He'd left when she was 6 without warning. She grew up with only scraps of explanation, a complicated past, a different family, a man who never looked back, until my story made sense of hers. Her final line stayed with me. "I think our stories might be different chapters in the same book. I'd like to finish reading mine." I wrote her back the next day. We spoke 2 weeks later over a video call that started awkward and ended in tears. Not from grief, exactly, from recognition, like meeting a version of yourself that had been walking parallel all this time. And in that call, something shifted in me. I realized this wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about legacy. I launched The Chosen Truth 6 months later, a nonprofit quietly but firmly built to serve one mission: give voice to those silenced by family image control. We offered therapy grants, legal aid, workshops for teens raised as brands, a hotline staffed with survivors of familial gaslighting, not professionals talking about it, but people who lived it. We started with a website, then a forum, then a series of digital zines, raw essays, photos, anonymous confessions. By the end of year 1, The Chosen Truth had over 2 million active users in 18 countries. Our stories weren't identical, but they rhymed. Children forced into pageants, teens forced into videos, siblings rewritten as villains to keep the golden child myth alive, stories buried under a mountain of smiling family portraits and hollow birthday videos. And as the voices grew louder, the silence started to crack in places it never had before. Universities reached out. Mental health organizations partnered. A state senator proposed legislation protecting minors from being monetized by family-run content accounts, dubbed the Maggie Law. It felt surreal, but real enough to hold. Amid all this, I finished the book. It took me longer than I'd expected, not because I didn't know what to say, but because I didn't want to say it the wrong way, not angry, not vindictive, not as a scream. I wanted it to feel like a door. The working title was Disowned, How I Became My Own Person. But in the end, I changed it. I called it The Storyline. The dedication was simple. To anyone who was edited out of their own life, "You're still here. I see you." It hit the shelves in fall, quietly. I didn't do a press tour, no interviews, just a soft launch through indie bookstores and online word of mouth. By the new year, it had reached a number 1 on the nonfiction list, and then the email came from a director I'd admired for years, a woman known for raw, intimate films about survival and reclamation. Her name was Lena Tarrant. She wrote only one sentence in her pitch. "I want to make a film about truth that doesn't ask for permission." We met in person a week later. She didn't want to dramatize the pain. She wanted to honor the survival. She wanted actresses who'd lived through similar family dynamics, real locations, unflinching honesty. "It won't be a sob story," she said. "It'll be a blueprint." I handed her the rights with tears in my eyes, not for the film, for the fact that someone saw what I had tried so long to hide and called it art. A year later, I stood on set watching the first scene being filmed. The actress playing me, not a mirror, but an echo, stood in the middle of a mock dinner table, the same kind of sterile lighting, the same hollow laughter piped in through speakers. Only this time, she didn't smile. She flipped the table. I watched the camera roll, breath caught in my throat, feeling something that tasted like vindication, but gentler, more like permission to be done. The final scene we shot took place on a beach, not in Malibu, not in some glossy studio, in a quiet town on the Oregon coast. The actress walked barefoot through the sand, holding a baby, waves crashing gently behind her. And as she turned toward the camera, she whispered my words. "You are not their storyline. You are your own." The director called cut. Everyone went silent. Then someone clapped, and another, and another. I stood on the edge of it all, hand on my heart, baby asleep in a sling across my chest, knowing that I didn't need to be on screen to feel seen. I'd written my ending, and for the first time in my life, it belonged only to me.